They called me a disappointment behind closed doors, and sometimes right to my face. My parents never missed a chance to remind me I wasn't like my sister, the doctor, the golden child, the one who made them proud. Me. I was the dropout. The screw-up. The one who couldn't hold down a job, who never amounted to anything. Every family dinner felt like a courtroom. Every hug felt forced. And when my mom announced her retirement from a career she bragged about endlessly, I wasn't even invited to the party. But I showed up anyway. Not to make a scene, but to make a point. No one expected me to walk through those double doors dressed like that. No one imagined what I was about to say, or reveal. I saw the way their smiles cracked. The way the room went silent. And for once, I had everyone's attention, including hers. That night, something shifted. They always told me I was a failure, but they never asked what I'd been building in the shadows. And when the truth came out, right there in front of the family that doubted me the most, it left them speechless. You won't believe what happened next. You won't believe what happened next. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, broken only by the clinking of champagne flutes someone nervously set down. My mother's face, usually so composed, so perfectly arranged, was a mask of disbelief. Her carefully applied lipstick seemed to tremble. My father, standing beside her, looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. His hand, usually so quick to pat my sister on the back, hovered awkwardly in the air. He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. No sound came out. The room, decorated with photos celebrating my mother's illustrious career, suddenly felt suffocating. Each framed image, each smiling face, seemed to mock me. They were images of a life I'd never been a part of, a success I'd never tasted. The scent of expensive perfume and the murmur of polite conversation that had filled the room moments before had vanished, replaced by a tension so thick I could almost taste it. It was the taste of victory, bitter and sweet. I let the silence hang, savoring it. It was a silence I'd earned. A silence that spoke volumes. Then, I did something completely unexpected. I smiled. Not a smug smile, not a triumphant one, but a small, almost sad smile. A smile that said, "You see me now." My sister, the golden child, the doctor, was the first to break the silence. What is the meaning of this?" she stammered, her voice laced with a confusion that bordered on panic. She glanced at my clothes, a sharp contrast to the flowing gowns and tailored suits of the other guests, and then back at my face, as if trying to reconcile the image of the sister she knew with the person standing before her. I didn't answer her directly. Instead, I turned my attention to my mother, my gaze steady, unwavering. "You never asked, Mom," I said, my voice surprisingly calm, even to my own ears. "You never asked what I was doing with my life. You assumed. You judged. You condemned." My mother's eyes flickered, a hint of something akin to fear flashing within their depths. It was a look I'd never seen before, and it sent a shiver down my spine. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm talking about the company," I said, my voice gaining strength with each word. "The company I built. From the ground up. The company that's about to revolutionize the very industry you dedicated your life to." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Whispers erupted, like dry leaves rustling in a sudden wind. My father's face turned a shade of pale I hadn't known existed. My sister's jaw dropped. The room, moments ago filled with suffocating silence, now buzzed with a nervous energy. I reached into my bag, a simple, unassuming bag that clashed with the designer clutches held by the other women in the room, and pulled out a small, sleek device. It gleamed under the chandelier lights, catching everyone's attention. "This," I said, holding it up for all to see, "is just the beginning." I explained, in concise, confident terms, what I had created. I spoke of the years of hard work, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices I had made. I spoke of the vision I had, the vision they had dismissed as a childish fantasy. I spoke of the future, a future they had never imagined I could be a part of, let alone shape. As I spoke, I noticed a strange shift in the atmosphere. The initial shock and disbelief began to give way to something else. Something darker. A subtle unease settled over the room, a sense of foreboding that prickled my skin. I saw it in the averted gazes, the forced smiles, the nervous fidgeting. It was as if a shadow had fallen over the celebration, a shadow that had nothing to do with my revelation. The feeling intensified when, during a brief pause in my explanation, a waiter stumbled and dropped a tray of champagne glasses. The shattering glass echoed through the room, startling everyone. But it wasn't the sound that unnerved me. It was the look on the waiter's face. A look of sheer terror, as if he had seen something horrifying. He stammered an apology and quickly began cleaning up the mess, his hands shaking so violently that he could barely hold the broom. I watched him, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. Something wasn't right. Something was very, very wrong. And as I looked around the room, at the faces of my family and friends, I realized that I wasn't the only one who felt it. The air crackled with an unspoken tension. The celebratory music, which had resumed after my initial announcement, now seemed discordant, almost menacing. The laughter felt forced, the smiles strained. Even my sister, who had initially seemed so bewildered, now wore an expression of quiet apprehension. And then, as I was about to continue my explanation, the lights flickered and went out, plunging the room into darkness. A collective gasp echoed through the room, followed by a moment of stunned silence. Then, chaos erupted. Screams pierced the darkness. The clinking of silverware against china turned into a cacophony as people scrambled, knocking over chairs, tables, anything in their path. The scent of fear, sharp and acrid, mingled with the lingering perfume. I stumbled back, clutching the device in my hand, my heart pounding against my ribs. Disorientation washed over me. Where was the exit? Where was my family? Then, a single, piercing shriek cut through the pandemonium. It was my mother. A sound so raw, so filled with terror, that it froze me in my tracks. I strained my ears, trying to pinpoint her location in the swirling darkness. Another shriek, closer this time, followed by a heavy thud. My blood ran cold. "Mom!" I yelled, my voice barely audible above the din. "Mom, where are you?" I pushed my way through the panicked crowd, my hands outstretched, searching for her. The darkness was absolute, broken only by the occasional flash of a cell phone screen, illuminating terrified faces for a fleeting moment. The air was thick with the smell of spilled champagne and something else, something metallic, something sickeningly sweet. I bumped into someone, a solid, unyielding presence. "Dad?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Stay close," he rasped, his voice strained, unnatural. He gripped my arm, his fingers digging into my skin. "Something's wrong." We moved together, slowly, cautiously, through the darkness. The screams had subsided, replaced by whimpers and hushed whispers. The chaos had given way to an eerie, unsettling quiet. It was the quiet of held breaths, of unspoken fear. Then, a faint light flickered in the distance, growing steadily brighter. It was coming from the main entrance. As we approached, the scene that unfolded before us sent a wave of nausea crashing over me. The doors were wide open, revealing the brightly lit hallway beyond. Silhouetted against the light stood a figure, tall and imposing, holding something in their hand. It glinted in the light, a metallic flash that made my stomach churn. It was a knife. And then, I saw her. My mother. Lying on the floor, a crimson stain spreading across her white gown. Her eyes were wide open, staring blankly at the ceiling. My father let out a guttural cry and lunged forward, but I held him back. "Dad, no!" I hissed, pulling him close. "It's a trap." He struggled against me, his eyes wild with grief and rage. "Let me go," he roared. "I have to get to her." But I held on tight, my mind racing. Something wasn't right. This wasn't just a random act of violence. This was calculated. Deliberate. And then, a chilling thought struck me. This was about me. The figure in the doorway turned, and the light caught their face. My blood ran cold. It was my sister. Her face, usually so composed, was contorted in a mask of rage. Her eyes, usually so kind, were filled with a chilling emptiness. "You," she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "This is all your fault." My father stopped struggling, his body going rigid. He stared at my sister, his eyes filled with a mixture of disbelief and horror. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice barely audible. What have you done?" My sister laughed, a harsh, grating sound that echoed through the hallway. "What I had to do," she said, her voice laced with a chilling calmness. "She was in my way. Just like you." She took a step forward, the knife still clutched in her hand. "You think you can just waltz in here and take everything?" she snarled, her gaze fixed on me. "You think you can just steal my life?" My mind reeled. Steal her life? What was she talking about? I had never wanted her life. I had only wanted my own. "Sarah, you're not making sense," I said, my voice trembling. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play innocent with me," she spat. "You've always been jealous of me. Of everything I have. Of everything I've achieved." She took another step closer, her eyes burning with a feverish intensity. "And now," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the pounding of my heart, "you're going to pay." The lights flickered again, and for a split second, I saw something in her eyes. A flicker of fear. Regret. It was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by the same chilling emptiness. And then, everything went black. The blackness wasn't the void of unconsciousness. It was the suffocating darkness of a blindfold. I could feel the rough fabric against my skin, the tight pressure around my head. Panic clawed at my throat. My hands were bound, pulled painfully behind my back. I struggled against the restraints, the fear a living thing inside me. Where was I? What had happened? The last thing I remembered was Sarah, her face twisted in a mask of hate, the knife glinting in her hand. My mother, the crimson stain on her white dress. The thought sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. A low chuckle echoed in the darkness. It was Sarah. "Awake, are we?" she purred, her voice close, too close. "Sarah? What's going on? Where's Mom? Where's Dad?" My voice trembled, despite my efforts to control it. Another chuckle, colder this time. "Oh, they're fine. For now. What do you mean, for now? My heart pounded against my ribs. What have you done? Don't worry about them, she said, her voice laced with a chilling amusement. Worry about yourself. A sharp pain shot through my arm. I cried out, a strangled gasp escaping my lips. What was that? Just a little something to keep you awake, she said, her voice light, almost conversational. We have a lot to discuss, you and I. She began to talk, her words weaving a twisted narrative of jealousy and resentment. She spoke of a life lived in my shadow, of opportunities stolen, of a future denied. It was a delusion, a warped perception of reality, but in her voice, I heard a genuine, chilling conviction. She believed every word. She spoke of our childhood, twisting innocent memories into evidence of my supposed malice. She spoke of our parents' favoritism, their blind adoration for the daughter who had always excelled, the daughter who had always followed the prescribed path. She painted herself as the victim, the forgotten child, while I was the villain, the usurper. As she spoke, fragments of memory began to surface. Moments of sibling rivalry, petty arguments, the usual childhood squabbles. But in Sarah's retelling, these insignificant events took on a sinister meaning, a pattern of deliberate cruelty on my part. You always had to be the center of attention, she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. You always had to have everything I wanted. That's not true, I whispered, my voice hoarse. I never wanted your life. Liar, she shrieked, her voice cracking. You took everything from me. My parents' love, my career, my future. Then, she revealed the truth, a truth so twisted, so unbelievable, that it sent a shiver down my spine. She had sabotaged her own career, her own life, blaming me for her failures, feeding her resentment until it consumed her. The attack on our mother, the staged scene, it was all part of her elaborate plan to frame me, to finally get her revenge. You're insane, I breathed, the words barely audible. Maybe, she admitted, her voice strangely calm now. But soon, everyone will believe I'm the victim. And you'll be the monster. A cold dread washed over me. She was right. Who would believe my story? Who would believe that the successful doctor, the golden child, was capable of such a thing? Suddenly, the blindfold was ripped away. I blinked, my eyes adjusting to the dim light. I was in the basement of our childhood home, tied to a chair. Sarah stood before me, the knife still in her hand, her face illuminated by a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. But something had changed. The rage, the feverish intensity, was gone. In its place was a chilling emptiness, a void where her sister had once been. She raised the knife, her hand trembling slightly. Any last words, she whispered. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not a monster, but a broken, lost soul. I forgive you, Sarah, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken emotions. Sarah's hand froze, the knife hovering inches from my chest. A flicker of something, confusion, doubt, crossed her face. And then, the basement door burst open, flooding the room with light. Police officers swarmed in, guns drawn. Sarah dropped the knife, her body collapsing to the floor. Later, I learned that my father, despite his initial shock and grief, had suspected Sarah. He had seen the flicker of fear in her eyes, the same flicker I had seen. He had called the police, guiding them to the basement. My mother, thankfully, had survived the attack. She was recovering in the hospital, her spirit shaken but unbroken. The device I had created, the device that had sparked this whole chain of events, was hailed as a breakthrough. My company flourished. I achieved the success I had always dreamed of. But it came at a cost. The cost of my sister's sanity, the cost of our family's innocence. I never forgot what happened that night. The darkness, the fear, the chilling realization that the greatest threat can come from within. But I also learned something else. I learned the power of forgiveness, the power of seeing the brokenness beneath the rage, the power of recognizing the shared humanity that binds us, even in the darkest of times. And in that recognition, I found a strength I never knew I possessed. A strength that allowed me to move forward, to heal, to rebuild, not just my own life, but the fractured remnants of my family. The success I found felt hollow for a long time. The echoes of Sarah's accusations, the image of my mother lying bleeding on the floor, the chilling emptiness in my sister's eyes, these memories haunted me, clinging to the edges of my mind like shadows. The world saw a triumphant innovator, a rising star. But beneath the surface, I carried the weight of that night, the weight of a family broken and a sister lost. Healing was a slow, arduous process, a journey of self-discovery and forgiveness. It required confronting the pain, acknowledging the complexities of family dynamics, and accepting that some wounds, even the deepest ones, can eventually heal. It meant rebuilding trust, brick by fragile brick, and learning to navigate a new normal, a normal forever marked by the events of that night. But through it all, I held on to the one thing that had saved me in that dark basement, the power of forgiveness. It was a power that not only freed Sarah, but also freed me. It allowed me to let go of the anger, the resentment, the fear, and to embrace the possibility of a future where healing, however imperfect, was possible. If you found this story captivating and thought-provoking, please consider subscribing to our channel. We delve into the complexities of human relationships, exploring the dark corners of the heart and the unexpected twists and turns that life can take. Hit the like button to show your appreciation and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on our future narratives. Join us as we continue to unravel the mysteries of the human experience, one story at a time.